Yes, a little bit about me. I have a bachelor's in business economics from Ethiraj College for Women. And I also had the opportunity to intern with the State Planning Commission of Tamil Nadu. And that's where I got to know, observe firsthand the workings of an organization and my interest for an MBA developed. And if
So far, let me tell all of you that Anish is someone who's not just cracked CAT very well. He also got admits to many top these schools, including, as you can see on the screen, SPJIMR, IIM Indore, MDI Gurgaon, lots of IITs, many other IIMs, and so on, right? So, and also interestingly, he also had very high scores on the XAT exam as well, which some people say is tougher than even the CAT exam. So, lots of interesting things to know from you, Anish. Over to you.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much for the introduction. So I don't have a PPT prepared, but I'll be able to speak on what I wanted to say. So starting with introduction. So yeah, I'm Anish, and I did my graduation. I have a background in computer science and engineering. I did my graduation in a college, in one of the top ranked engineering colleges in the state of Kerala, called College of Engineering Trivandrum. Following which I worked for 2 years in the domain of airline IT in a company called Amadeus Software Labs in Bangalore. Following which I cracked CAT in my third attempt. So CAT 2020 was my third attempt at CAT, and I got an admit to SPJIMR Mumbai. So starting off with why I wanted to do an MBA, why I was writing CAT 3 times like a mad person. For me, it was because uh, I had my decision made when I wanted to do an engineering degree in the field of computer science and engineering. So technology was something that was always in my mind, and I did a corporate internship during my graduation years, which exposed me to a lot of cutting edge technologies out there, especially deep learning. And I saw how all the companies are using these cutting edge technologies to drive all of their projects. So that's when I realized that technology was at the back, was the backbone of most of the companies out there. Any company that you pick right now will be using a technology on which a complete business unit would be running. So for me, to have that engineering degree in me and to work for 2 years in the corporate area in a ever changing airline IT space, it made me realize that I have enough skills as far as the technological space was concerned. And then it dawned upon me that I had to take my next step in my career. I have to add another layer of management on top of it, because businesses is not, though the technology is the backbone of most of the business out there, it is not only about technology, right? It's about how you do marketing. It's about the financial aspects of your business. It's about how you strategize and how the operations is running in the business. So for me to have the technology expertise, that was not enough to become a good corporate leader of tomorrow. I had to gain a lot of knowledge in the form of marketing, finance, and all the other verticals as far as the business is concerned. So that made me realize that an MBA is something that I definitely have to do at some point in my career. And it was something that I kept in my mind even before joining my engineering college, that I would complete this degree, get some experience, get some exposure to the technological world out there, and then add a layer of management on top of it, so that I have all the tools necessary for me to succeed in the corporate world out there. So that was the main reason for me to do an MBA. So my first attempt, I'll speak of my first attempt in CAT. So uh, the time when I started preparing for CAT would be around September 2017. So that was when I was studying in my college in Trivandrum, and the time had a classroom program launched out there. And I was preparing to get a scholarship for the program. So that was the month and year when I started my preparation. So CAT 2018 was my first attempt. So talking a bit about my strategy and how my strategy kind of developed over the years, how my uh, preparation was different for all the three attempts. So in my first year, in my 18th attempt, in my CAT 2018 attempt, I focused a lot on completing all the basics. For me, I had a lot of study material lying around of time, and I completed each and every single one of those questions out there. And I did not focus a lot on the mocks, because like every student who is preparing for an exam for the first time, he or she would be focusing more on the knowledge and more on the theoretical part rather than going to a mock. Everyone will try. Everyone has this what do you call feeling of putting off the mocks towards the very end, which is something that I would suggest to avoid. Which I'll come back to that later. So that was what I did for my first year. I concentrated a lot on the theoretical, on getting all the questions covered, getting all sorts of topics covered, and then it was around August or September when I was starting on the mocks. So for me, in that year, what went wrong would have been the fact that I started mocks very late, and it was also in a year where I had to concentrate a lot on my placements as well. So I went a bit out of touch for a few months just before the CAT exam, and that is something that I would never advise any aspirant out there to do. You always have to stay in touch. It doesn't mean that you have to spend a lot of hours every day working on CAT and you have to burn your midnight oil for CAT. No, but you'll definitely have to stay in touch with the kind of questions being asked. You have to definitely stay in touch with the mock taking. You can never take a break, like a 1 month or a 2 month break from CAT and expect to do as well as you would have done if not for that break. So that is something I would ask my any aspirant out there to avoid, to not take that break and to not keep off the mocks towards the very end. For the second year, I felt that my basics was in place. I scored a 98.17 percentile in my first attempt for your information. And during my second attempt, I was working in this company and I had a lot of time lying around. And for me, at that point, I knew that I had all my basics in place. My theory was good, but my strategy was something that I was really suffering on. I did not know how to handle if a difficult or a tricky paper was thrown at me, or if a very easy paper for that matter was thrown at me, because then speed would become very crucial. And I was not someone who can quickly read an article or something. So speed is definitely a concern for me as well. So I knew that I needed to strategize. I needed to work on a mock taking strategy. And for that, I knew that I had to take as many mocks as possible. And for my second attempt, I bought the mocks from Time and IMS, the SimCats, and I would have done almost 30 to 40 mocks. That year, I again ended up with a 98.3 percentile, almost similar to the score that I scored the first year. And at that point, I was kind of lost. I mean, I got a lot of calls during the second time around because I had 1 extra year of work experience. I got around 8 calls, but I was not able to convert any of those calls because out there, for a person for an engineer having 1 year of work experience, 98.3 was not enough. You need to have a very good interview to convert your call. And I was not able to give such a good interview. For me, so I realized that I need to go out and attempt CAT for the third time. And I knew that the reason for me to not get a good score the second time around was the fact that I was good in all 3 sections. I scored a 95, 96, and a 97 across all 3 sections, if I remember it correctly, during my second attempt. But then I was not really, really good at any one section. I believe that is one of the things that you should definitely have in your hand if you have to crack CAT. You can be good. I mean, everyone out there, every 98 or 99% out there is good in all 3 sections. It's definitely there, but you have to be really, really good in at least one section to get that 99 point, XX percentile. And I did not have that. It was not Quant, it was not VRC, it was not DILR for me for the second attempt. So that's when I realized that for my last attempt, I need to make one section, at least one section, my strongest area. And that's when I started to work on DLR a lot. DLR was something that came natural to me. Even when, 2018 had a really tricky DLR paper, if I'm not wrong. Even 2019 had a tricky DLR paper. I mean, all the DLR papers for the past 3 years have been very tricky, and they're getting more and more tougher over the past 3 years. So I knew that DLR could be the differentiator because I know a lot of people who can score really well in VRs, who can score really well in Quants, but they struggle to do in DLR. And I knew that if I could build DLR, if I could put DLR as my differentiator from the 2 lakh aspirants out there, I could really have a good an upstart in the race. So that's when I started working on DLR. That's when I started working on fine tuning my strategy in DLR, because DLR was really I was someone who was like good in DLR. I could easily score a 98 or a 97 in any paper, but then I really needed to up my game to score a 99 point something, so that even though if I flunk the other 2 sections a bit, I could have a score which is in the 99s. So that's when I started to work really hard on DILR. Apart from solving mocks, I did around 50 plus full-time timed mocks during my last attempt, mainly coming from Times AIMCATs, which has the largest student base out there. So each AIMCAT is taken by around 20,000 plus people. So I would suggest all aspirants to get times AIMCAT as well as IMS SIMCAT. You can couple it off with either the Krakow's mocks are also, I heard from my friends that they're kind of good right now. Or you can also depend on time or career launches mocks. So I picked those two packages and I did around 50 plus mocks, at the same time fine tuning my strategy for DILR. So that kind of worked, and I was able to score a 99.95 in DILR, coupled with a 91.88 in VARC and a 97.88 in Quants. So that helped. That was my strategy for the 3 years. So the first year I focused a lot on theory and getting my basics in place. The second year was more about exploring myself to see what strategy I could find and to do mocks and to see where I could get better. And the third year was finally hitting the nail at the right place and getting the score home. So that was my CAT journey, if I have to put it that way. And to come to my academic profile, of course, I have a 9.4 GPA in my 10th standard and a 94.2% in my 12th standard, both of them being from a CBSE based school. And I have, of course, I have a degree in engineering with a GPA of 8.69, following which I worked for 22 months, to be exact, in a company called Amadeus in the IT space. So I have a 898 profile coupled with 22 months of IT work which I believe would be a good enough candidature for any engineer out there. And if you can get a good score and a decent interview, you can nail any B school calls out there. And so that is about my academic profile and work experience, and I've covered my CAT journey as well. And now to detail a bit on the final admits that I received and why I prefer joining this B school. So I received, as Sir told, I received admits from SPJIMR, MDI Gurgaon, NITIE, IIM Indore, all the IITs, the Department of Management Studies and Indian Institute of Science, NIMS Mumbai, new IIMs, baby IIMs, and all of the other B schools. And the reason why I preferred joining SPJIMR was because coming from a strongly technical background and having worked in the corporate technical space for about 2 years, I really had a strong inclination for the product and the program management roles out there. And I felt that the SPJIMR's IIM program was a right fit, a tailored fit for me to become a good programmer, a product manager of tomorrow. Of course, a general MBA would have decently worked, but I felt that a program that is tailored towards providing such roles would be a better option for me. And of course, the brand name of SPJIMR is something huge, which everyone knows, and the placement outcome of the college has been increasing over the placement outcome is really great for the college, and the brand name is something that has been increasing over the years, compared to all the other colleges out there. So that was the reason for me to pick SPJIMR over the other converts that I got. And to detail a bit on the strategy of the interviews. I won't focus too much on the interviews because this is mostly about CAT. I feel that I should talk a few words about the interviews, because a lot of students tend to keep CAT as their main goal and work a lot towards CAT. They end up getting a good score, but then when the interviews start, they really start panicking and they realize that they are not simply cut out for the kind of interviews that have been thrown at them. So, which is something that I felt during my second attempt at CAT, because even though I got 8 calls during my second attempt with the 98 percentile, I was not able to convert even one, which is when I realized that even though I have decent communication skills, even though I am coming from a good background, I don't have enough to convert those interviews that are being thrown at me. And that's when I realized that I needed to join a tailored program which can iron out all the flaws that is inherent in me. So I would suggest people who are not really confident about interviews to join any sort of an interview coaching program. There are a lot out there. There are a lot of programs being run by students. There are a lot of programs being run by past alums. So there are a lot of options out there. I would really suggest the aspirants to make use of them. And your preparation needs to start as and when your exams end. I think exams end by January. That's when SAT, which is usually the last exam you'll be taking, ends, and you'll have to start your interview preparation right from that day onwards. You have to read a lot of newspapers, form an opinion on the news that is being read. Simply reading the news won't suffice. You have to form an opinion. You have to see if you could provide a decent explanation for why the laws or the or the news that are being news out there. Like if you can provide an opinion on top of those news, it will be really nice. And of course, you'll have to learn a lot about the technological industry, about the geography, the political landscape, a lot. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, it's a sea to cover. So if you join a tailored program, it will be really easy for them to provide a direction on how to go about on interview preparation. And coming to CAT study plan and everything. So some of the do's and don'ts that I would like to detail right now would be to start taking mocks. So if you're someone who's starting with the preparation, I mean, for this year or for the next year, start taking mocks. I mean, only when you take a mock would you realize that where you're weak in, the kind of sections that you're weak in, the kind of questions where you're weak in, and you'll be able to bucket all the questions out there into strong areas and weak areas and mediocre areas, and you can start working on the weak and the mediocre areas and keep practicing the strong areas. So that is really essential, because if you're blindly starting a book and trying to cover the basics from A to Z, that'll never work, because you'll never have that much time to put CAT as your only goal in life. You'll either be working or you'll either be studying in a college in your fourth year along with CAT preparation. CAT preparation can't be the only goal for you, right? So you need to work smartly rather than burning the midnight oil out there. So I would suggest to start taking mocks as soon as possible. I mean, today would be the best day to start taking a mock if you're preparing for CAT 22 or CAT 21. So never put off from taking a mock. Another huge don't that I would suggest participants to avoid is to rely a lot on videos. A lot of videos and YouTube preparation materials being rolled out there. So I'm not sure. I'm someone who really prefers working alone with the past question papers. So rather than watching a lot of strategy videos or tips to score 100 percentile in 10 days, such kind of videos which are being thrown out there, I'm not sure. I mean, such videos might help a certain set of people, but uh, it's best that you discover yourself through your own journey, is what I would like to say, because no one out there has a strategy that can work out for you. If someone asked me for a strategy tomorrow, I would not say, because what worked for me need not necessarily work for the other person. So I would ask you to find that strategy yourself, because for me, I did that and that worked really well for me. So take a mock, see where you're weak at, take a CAT, see where you have flunked, and try to iron out those flaws. Develop a strategy for yourself is what I'd like to say, rather than relying on the n number of YouTube videos out there. And definitely uh, keep in touch with the mocks. I would not suggest you to take a mock in the last week of your CAT exam, because depending on the score, you can either get overconfident or you can get really low. It can pull your morale really low. So I would suggest you to not do that. And also focus on the 2-hour format a lot more. I mean, there's a good chance that CAT from now on could end up being from the 2-hour format. So focus both on the 3-hour and the 2-hour format. And then some other do's would be to kind of not rely too much on the on any specific institute. Like, don't go for one institute and depend only on the material that they give, because there's a lot of material out there. Talk to your seniors, talk to people who have cracked CAT, and see what they have done, see what material they have followed, and try to get all the material in, and try to depend on as many materials as possible. Try not to rely on a single material or a single mentor out there, is something that I would like to say. And yeah, I think that is it. If sir has any question to ask, I can answer. Uh,
Certainly. Thank you so much, Anish. Very, very useful and very much like a programmer, very well framed, scientific approach. Look out for as much information and as much material and try to figure things out for yourself. So thank you so much, Anish. Really lovely, 15 minutes of inputs. A quick question, couple of quick questions
sure,
for
sir.
you. Yeah. One is difference between the CAT and the ZAT exam. You took both of them and you've done very well in both of them. Could you share a little bit about that?
Sure, sir. So the main difference, as it's obvious, would be the one section that is not present in CAT, that is a decision-making section. And for that, there is no study material out there apart from the previous SAT papers. There could be a lot of institutes that offer such decision-making, sectionals, but don't follow them, because the correct answer for SAT might not be the correct answer for the coaching institute. So that is one section that you really have to concentrate a lot on. And when I started with my SAT preparation, I just focused on that one section alone, because that if you're able to do that well, your SAT would be sorted, is what I would like to say. So do that section. Get the past 10 years papers of SAT. It is available with all the coaching institutes out there. Try to focus. Try to do on the decision. Try to do all the decision making questions, and that will be there. That will be all good to go for that section. And one other section which could be more difficult would be the quants. The quants of SAT has historically been more difficult than CAT in the fact that it's much more time consuming. I won't say the concept or the theory being tested is difficult, but it will require a lot of time. The kind of DI sets which are being rolled in SAT is much more, time consuming is what I would like to say. The numbers are, it's all very number heavy. So you need to get your mental math game in place for the quants. And of course, even the VARC, the reading comprehensions are much more text heavy. There's a lot of words when compared to the short, passages in CAT. So the best strategy for SAT would be to, I mean, if your CAT preparation is sorted, you're 90% done for SAT. But on top of that, you have to prepare a lot for the decision making set and get yourself accustomed to the newer set of quant questions, the much more time consuming and the tougher set of quant questions. And also VARC would be mostly similar, but just that you have to get your reading speed up. So those would be the differences for SAT.
Perfect, perfect. My final question to you. This was your third CAT exam.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people are obviously very nervous. And how did you deal with the anxiety? How did you deal with the discouragement that you would have got over the last 3 years or so before you finally made it to SPJ and MDI, IIM Indore, and many others? So how do you deal with that mentally?
Okay. Yeah, very interesting question, sir. Because the first year around, even though it was a disappointment, even though it was something that I never expected that I would not even get a single admit from any baby or new IIM out there in my first attempt. It did not deter me because I already had a job or a placement offer in place. So for all the aspirants out there, that's why I say to never put CAT as your only goal, to not take a break. I mean, of course, your situation might be different and it's all subjective at the end of the day. But if it's possible, try to keep a job along with your CAT prep. Don't rely or don't take a break from your career. Don't put all your eggs in one basket called CAT. That will just make you more nervous. That will just make you worry more about each and every single of your mock score. So whenever you get a good mock score, you'll be very happy with the decision of your of leaving job. And if you get a bad or a pathetic mock score, then definitely you will start getting a lot more nervous. So never put CAT as your only goal is what I would like to say. And of course, during my second year, again, I got 8 rejects. And I was able to deal with it because, of course, it was a very low point in my life that, I was really confused on whether to take up admissions in Tier 2B schools or to go for one more year of CAT. The reason I was able to go along was because I had a good job that was keeping my life intact. And I had a set of friends who in my company with whom I was interacting on a daily basis. And there was a group of friends along with which I was preparing for CAT. And they were always certainly pushing me to go for a top 10 B school and not settle for anything less. So that's why your friend circle, your group, your job will come in place. That's when your parents, the support that offered by parents will all come in place. So always have a life going on for your own and let CAT be another parallel journey that you're taking across. Don't let CAT be your only journey is what I would like to say.
Very well said. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anish.